and welcome to the Dr. John Telford Show. I'm his co host, Gloria Cunningham, and we will be interviewing and talking to Helen Moore here on WJZZ Cool TV. Dr. John Telford is a former Detroit Public Schools superintendent, a former conqueror of Olympic track champions, a championship track coach, poet, newspaper columnist, and author of 8 books available at Amazon.com or by calling 313-460-8272. That's 313-460-8272. Also, a recipient of the Detroit City Council Spirit of Detroit Award and the Joe Louis Foundation Spirit of the Champ Award. Dr. Telford was named for him. His email address is drjohntelfordedd@aol.com. That's drjohntelfordedd@aol.com. So we are coming to you live right now with guest Helen Moore. And also want to tell you that Dr. John Telford won't be able to make it today, so I'm going to try to work through his show again. He has blessed me one more time with allowing me to do this. Much prayer is needed for him today. He has some difficulties that he's trying to work through physically, and he will be just fine. So welcome, Helen Moore. I've been knowing you since I was 10. That's wonderful, and I love when you say my mother, Margie Ree Cunningham. I miss her greatly.
Yes, she was wonderful. Part of Keep the Vote No Takeover, Black Parents for Quality Education in our community at our neighborhood school. It's a pleasure to be with you today because we've got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, that's a DPS for you.
So I would like to first start off with the updating us on the $150 million wrongful death lawsuit to be filed against DPSCD. I didn't know anything about it, but when I received this information, this paper from the Detroit Native Sun that you all can buy now or get from the stores, I think that the paper is free, isn't it?
Yes,
they can get
yes.
it free. Okay.
They
usually
have it
at the
several
grocery
places.
stores, yeah. So I just read this story, and I'm kind of upset about it because sometimes when we're at the school board meetings, we're cut off from the news. It appears that they don't allow the news media into our school board meetings, I guess, unless they get permission. And I don't like that because many times the people in the community don't get the right information that will help them do the right thing for their children. But Keep the Vote No Takeover Coalition, which I chair, members of our group are always there at the school board meeting, and one is coming up, and I appeal to everybody that's listening to call the board and find out what date the meeting is, find out where it is. I'm not going to give it out. I want you to do that so that if they cancel it, you want to make sure that you're going to a meeting that's actually happening. So please call the school board and ask them what time is the meeting and where it's going to be held. Every month you should do that. And make sure the day before the meeting you also call so that you won't be coming there spending gas and money and the meeting's been canceled. It happened a couple of times and people got a little upset.
And they have them at various locations, right?
Yes, that's right. So now I want to talk about the head story today. $150 million wrongful death lawsuit to be filed against DPSD. I'm kind of shocked because this article was written by Valerie Lockhart, and it's about a family where one of the children, the family is filing $150 million wrongful death lawsuit against the Detroit Public Schools Community District and is calling for a police investigation. Sometimes we don't know all these. If we don't get this paper and they won't have news people in the meeting, a lot of things are kept from us, but we try to keep up with it. Foul play is suspected as allegations of fraud in falsifying school physicals that are needed to play in school sports have been made. This one child, the suit will also state how a defibrillator was not nearby and was found in another room. The child fell out and fainted on the floor. And it seems that they did not follow the law. CPR was performed minutes later after staff determined the teen was not suffering from a seizure, but cardiac arrest. An automated external defibrillator was allegedly located in another room and brought to the gym, delaying recitation. According to the Michigan High School Athletic Association, students must have on file a MHSAA physical card and medical history form signed by a medical professional, MD, DO, or physician assistant, and parent guardian for the current school year in order to participate in school sports. Woods said she paid $20 for a physical to be performed. Instead, no physical was given, and the report was supposedly signed off by a staff member who is not a licensed physician. Several players signed sworn affidavits stating that they did not undergo a physical, and documents were signed by a school staff. The family hopes the lawsuit will bring about changes in the district to put the safety of players over winning a game. No mother should ever have to experience what I've gone through. Changes have to be made. You're not playing a game, you're playing with people's lives. Cartier was much too young to die. He had his whole life ahead of him. He had dreams, and all we're left with are memories, Woods said. Now, I read this because I've been concerned for a long time. You know, I don't miss any board meetings. And so I'm wondering why the media has been taking out the board meetings. Apparently, the superintendent and the board has made sure that these stories and things that we say in the board meeting, when we come to speak to the board, are not gotten out to the community. Now, that's been going on a long time since Dr. Viti has been there. We need to do something about it. This is our schools. It is us that is really in charge of our schools. Dr. Viti is under us. The board is under us. We elect them. Why are we being treated like second-class citizens when we pay for everything that goes on? We are their bosses. It's got to change now. We got to get news people back into the board meeting so situations like this aren't kept in the dark. Now, it is in Detroit Native Sun if you all want to go out and get one because they're free at your grocery stores, whatever.
And they have them down at Burt's Marketplace.
That's right.
Yeah.
You need to know what's going on in the schools because it's been kept a secret. Now, it's not too much of a secret to us because we go to the meetings and committee meetings. But the community, when I look around and look for the news media, I know they're not there. And the only reason they're not there is because the board and the superintendent has kept them out of the meetings. So it's time to make changes.
Yeah, and I saw one day, I saw the ad about the lawsuit and what happened with her son, but they pulled it away real quickly. Some things stay on the news for a week, every broadcast, all the channels, and that seems important enough that it should have been on all the channels. So there must be a connection with DPSCD that, like you were saying, that stops it more than just with the board members, maybe with the city of Detroit.
I'm afraid that we've been bamboozled. I'm afraid that even my activism and Keep the Vote group have been kept in the dark. We get 3 minutes to speak when we get to school board meetings, and a lot of the issues.
And that's at the very end.
Yeah, that's
so if
at
you're
the,
tired of waiting.
Well, generally now
leave.
they're in the middle.
Oh, okay.
Now, and they changed it, but still. There's a lot of people speaking for 3 minutes, and folks have more to say, and it's not allowed. Recently, the superintendent has selected the issues that he would like to talk about, and when everybody has spoken, in the audience and outside, they can call in when the names get on the list. After everybody has spoken, he sort of answers the questions back, the ones he selects. So we're being treated like the Nazi Party where you can't have any rights, and it's our money, it's our school, and it's our children. Why are we acting like slaves?
And we're losing educators and students to other schools, to charter places and homeschooling, and it's getting smaller and smaller.
Well, I just read that 25% of our children in Detroit go to charter schools, some outside of the city. Not only because they feel we lack the education in Detroit, and that they're getting inferior education, but simply because they feel they don't have any rights in Detroit public schools. Now, I would argue that the same as with charter schools, but when you're looking for something better, you'll do anything and you'll go anywhere. Now, we've been working very hard to make Detroit public schools better. I am at the Barton School, which you and I both went to. Your mother worked with me with our parent group. And I'm seeing progress because we're there. Keep the Vote No Take Over, and other parents are there talking to the children and helping them read. And you come in sometimes and help us out. So we're trying to progress our children to a point where they won't be behind. Detroit is far behind most of the school systems in the city. The last report I looked at, we were perhaps 13% up in reading. 13%. And one report I read something like 19%. That's not right. Our children should be receiving a better education. And the other thing is, why is all this secretive stuff going on? Why is the news media agreeing not to come to the board meeting? Aren't they supposed to be reporting the news? Aren't they supposed to be allowed to enter any of these meetings when it has to do with public?
Yeah.
Well, what happened?
Yeah.
You notice they don't come.
Yeah, and that's a major piece, the school system, the public school system in a major city, and they should be showing something probably once a week.
Yeah, and we're being let out, and that's why many of us don't know what's in this article. If it wasn't for Detroit Native Son, you and I wouldn't know. We talked about it today. I was just amazed that 150 million wrongful death lawsuit to be filed against DPSCD. We don't have no money, hardly. They keep spending it and telling us that we're in debt, and we got two school systems.
Well, the state will just pay it off. They'll just go deep into their pockets and just pay that $150 million lawsuit off.
Yeah, it's not begun yet. But we will see in the future what they do for this family, because the child is gone. And all the things they should have done in advance. I went to law school. If you don't follow the law, you're going to get it at the end. And they probably will get this $150 million taken away from the finances of school system. Mm-hmm. So let's stay alert to that.
Yeah.
And the other thing I wanted to do, Gloria, I bought all this stuff to talk in 1 hour.
Yeah,
I won't be able to do it.
You can do at least half. But let me do the station ID. You're watching Wjzz Cool TV, the Dr. John Telford Show, live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, and other top social media platforms. Like, follow, share, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching Wjzz Cool TV, the coolest station in the world. Okay, so pick your next favorite.
I'd like to talk about the Willie Lynch syndrome.
Okay.
If many of you don't know, there was a time, and I'm going all the way back to 1712, regarding the control of the slaves and all that happened to them back when they were in the colonies. Willie Lynch came to speak to them because he wanted to make sure that they were kept slaves. Mm-hmm. And so all the owners of the slave called them together. I'm just going to read part of this, okay?
Good.
So here's what he spoke to them about. In my bag here, I have a foolproof method for controlling your black slaves. I guarantee every one of you that is installed correctly, it will control the slaves for at least 300 years. My method is simple. Any member of your family or your overseer can use it. I have outlined a number of differences among the slaves, and I take these differences and make them bigger. I use fear, distrust, and envy for control purposes. These methods have worked on the modest plantation in the West Indies, and it will work throughout the South. Take the simple little list of differences and think about them. On top of my list is age. The second is color or shade. There is intelligence, size, sex, size of plantations, status on plantation, attitude of owners, whether the slaves lived in the valley, on the hill, east, west, north, south, have fine hair or coarse hair, or is tall or short. Now that you have a list of differences, I shall give you an outline of action. But before that, I shall assure you that distrust is stronger than adulation. Respect for adulation. Now, what I read that for is I always look at this when I see we call some of our people Uncle Toms, and they cannot get past the Willie Lynch syndrome. You will always know when someone is an Uncle Tom, when someone like me is speaking out for black people, black children, and they want you to shut up. Now, many times they've tried to shut me up and they've carried me out of meetings and all that. But I'm still talking, and I'm still trying to get to our people to respect themselves. We've got a lot to be really happy about. But we've got a lot of people who still haven't gotten out of the Willie Lynch syndrome. So I bring that to the audience today to remember. Now, this was 1712, and if you all think we're still free, something's wrong with you. Black people in the United States are not free. We have not gotten to the promised land. That was promised us because of slavery, and we were freed, and everybody was hallelujah, bind the glory. This is wonderful. Look at what's happening to us today. They still treat us as second-class citizens. So what we do with Keep the Vote No Takeover is try to get our people to see this, let them know that you're not free and you got a lot of work to do. You can't sit home and act like you know, nothing's happening. You can't sit home and allow your children to go to school without getting an education.
And why don't we support each other?
Because
what is that about?
Why did you see me just read the Willie Lynch syndrome? It actually still exists. It started 1712. We still feel like we're not good enough. We're not like white people. We still fight each other. And that's not what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to lift each other up, and especially our children, get them to the place where they would excel. Like some of our 12-year-old children are going to college, but you don't know it because they're not advertising. I do a lot of investigation on our people. We got some brilliant children. And when they find out who they are, when we get into the schools, and you know, you and I talk to the kids and tell them, you are somebody. Look how excellent you are reading now. When you started off, you couldn't read 2 words. We got them reading. I got a child in my class at Barton. Yeah. You know who he is? The encyclopedia guy. I can't do nothing but go get your book and let him read from the encyclopedia. This child is in the 4th grade. Why did I discover this? And why is he really working with me? What is happening in the schools?
Yeah.
So we got a lot of work to do.
Yeah. And then the classes are getting smaller, but that's not helping anybody.
That's right.
The teachers are leaving, and they leave so quickly because they can be hired again by somebody else because there's a shortage. And they'll be at a school. I do a study power hour with some students at my alma mater, which is now a K-8 school, Mackenzie. And everyone I work with, the next year they're not there anymore. And some of them were my former students back at other schools. The Spanish teacher went to Denby, and I was at Denby. And the next year, we did about 4 study power hours, and I give away a lot of things to the kids for giving the right answers. Then she told me, well, I'm not going to be here next year. So if the schools aren't good enough, then the teachers just leave.
And that is a common occurrence now.
And they can get another job quickly the next semester because there's a shortage.
And that's what we're looking at now, right now, to see if we can do anything about that. Now, they did get a slight raise, but it's not comparative to those school systems outside of Detroit. And so if you're not really dedicated and you feel like you're being mistreated, it's open. You apply for another job and you get it, especially if you're a really good teacher.
Out of the district, everybody needs a teacher here or there. And,
Yes.
and the out of the district schools might offer you a little bit more to make sure they get you.
That's true. And so we have to do something about that too and make sure that they stay with our children, and especially the real good teachers. Now, all the teachers are not exceptional, but some are. And the ones that stay here, pretty good teachers. Now, at Barton School, all our staff is great, and our principal is too. Mm-hmm. But do other school systems, other schools have that? So we all work together, those of us that volunteer, and we get things done because you don't have this opposition. And when we come into the classrooms, get our children out, they are happy to see us, and they're happy that we're helping out. So this should be done all over the school system, all over Detroit public schools. Why isn't it? We got the Let's Read program that we started 2-3 years ago. Mm-hmm. And we got volunteers for that program, but it's not enough. Everybody that's listening now needs to take a chance to look at their schools and see if they have time to volunteer for maybe 1 hour a week. It's working. How come one of my children can read the encyclopedia? And I tell him, look, don't come in here with no more encyclopedia. Get a regular book. And he goes to the library and gets it anyway. He doesn't miss a word. Now, why would that happen in a Detroit public school? Because he's getting the attention he needs, and it started at home. I found out the secret. I found out why he comes to school before and was sleeping and wasn't interested, because why should he be interested in stuff for the first grade when he can read up to 12th grade? Now we got him together, and he's so proud.
How do the teachers respond to that? Because they've been teaching them, and then you've pulled them in and done this reading program. Now they're getting them back a little bit longer. And then do they applaud your efforts, or do they say, oh, he's much better. He can do this. He can write better. He can spell better, the whole bit.
He's not sleeping in class. Think about it. He was
sleeping.
bored. He was bored because he wasn't getting anything up to the level that he needed. And finally, when we found that out, I arrived. He started reading to me.
And has he influenced his classmates?
I think so. I see a difference, and I have 7 children that I'm helping. 4 of them are excellent readers. 3 of them need a lot of help, and I'm working on it, okay? So, yeah.
Do you have any special needs kids, the special ed kids?
Yeah. But, I don't do that. I don't do special needs and all that kind of stuff. I just see children, and I try to help them at the point they are. I would not know how many of those children are special needs because some of them read almost as good as I do, and I went to law school. Now, what the heck is going on? Why in the world we get, those of us that are volunteer, get these children that are in such need? And then I found out 4 of them are excellent readers. 3 of them really need help. What was going on in the school system? What was going on at home? Think about it. Are all our children brilliant and don't know it? Because they don't get this background and home, work that they need, the support they need. That's why we're here. I don't down parents. Almost half of our parents in Detroit are illiterate. Don't know that. And I found out about 70% of our parents are not married. Wow. Now, do we sit around, I'm a social worker too. Do we sit around and point our fingers? I'm better than them. They're no good and all that. Or do we do the right thing? Some of us go to church, and some of us have been in church all of our lives. Do we help each other get to the point that we should get to? What do we do?
There's not a lot of helping going on. And I call it the black woman syndrome, that the women are the ones that fuss talk the most, and they don't support you, or they might be jealous, or they just might be hateful. If you do one thing wrong, then they don't want to have anything to do with you. But everybody's going to do something wrong, but you know where we came from, and you know of the struggle. So why don't we help each other? Even if it's something small, do something, not just, and then now the young people don't even speak. They don't appreciate elders. They don't respect any adults, and they will say anything. My father's in a nursing home, and they walk by me. We used to speak so much to each other walking by when we were younger that you would make yourself stop. You say, well, I walked by her 6 times today. I'm not going to stop, just nod your head, because it was just, it's disrespectful not to speak or not to talk, or it's crazy.
All right, things are changed now, and our philosophy is, and a little child can lead them. You remember the Bible story about Jesus when he came to the earth, and he did so many good things for the people. As a little child, I tell you, it's our children that are going to lead us and are leading us. There's so much going on at home. I try not to let the children talk to me about it, but I'm sitting there as they say things to me that I shouldn't hear. Why?
Well, that's cussing in front of your parents. That's insane. Or
cussing,
I got. Period.
What about fighting, hitting your parents?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Or cussing your parents.
And
out,
why are the parents
stealing
fighting?
money out of their purse? So.
Yeah. Why are the parents fighting each other?
Oh yeah. That domestic violence is horrible.
Okay. Now, we got problems. And some of us are ready to tackle the problem. I've been out there 51 years. Your mother was out there with me. Remember those days at Barton School? Now, how long, oh Lord, how long will we have to keep doing this so that our children will recognize who they are, tell their parents who they are, how wonderful we can be, and how many of our people have made it in this world, even today, with all the racism that they have to face. How could they make it, and we couldn't? Some of us couldn't. Now, the reason is that somebody back there was guiding our children. I asked my children of 7, how many of y'all go to church? 1. And his stepfather comes and picks him up and said, well, stepfather, I guess, yeah, because his mother and father were never married, but he takes him with his girlfriend to church. The rest of the kids, and this is going to shock some people, I asked the children what they wanted to be, and then I asked them, what kind of work does your mother and father do? Now, some of them are on welfare, but others, guess what, were just so happy. They said, my mother works at McDonald's. I almost fell out of my seat because they actually thought that was great. I'm glad their parents, and especially their mother, have a job. But if that's all they've got to look to, that's the top of the mountain. Are they going to stay there, or shall I try to influence them that there's better things for them? So I try to get the lesson into the reading, but I also try to encourage them that there is much more in the world for them, and they should try to get there. And the first thing I say, you got to get through school. What grade? Someone said 8th grade. I said 12th grade. You just started. You're in the 4th grade. They don't know all these things. So you got to be ready for the world. And I'm going to get you there. So I'm going to keep tutoring as long as God gives me strength.
Okay, another station ID. You're watching the Dr. John Telford Show live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, and other top social media platforms. Like, follow, share, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching Wjzz Cool TV, the coolest station in the world. And call people out to come to Barton and help out. What time are you there?
I come from 10. I come on Mondays and Fridays. You don't have to come every day. I come on Mondays and Fridays at 10 o'clock. And I go till I feel it's time for me to leave. If I have one child that's having a lot of problems, I'll stay over 10, 15 minutes with that. So I try to give each child about 15 minutes. Some don't need it, like the child I told you about that can read the encyclopedia. I got another one there, same girl that reads. They say she has a problem. She doesn't with me. We have a good time together. So she reads as good as he does. And then I have 3 that need a lot of help. So I'm working on them, okay? And they're coming along. They're actually getting serious.
Have you met any of the parents?
Never.
Okay.
Not one. And I ask about that, But we do have parent meetings at the school. I don't go to them, but I'm thinking that maybe I should. And maybe I should try to find out where some of these parents are coming from. But when you're in a situation like this, volunteer, you don't like to mess with how things are running and how things going, because we are not the principal. We are there to help the kids read. And I have to keep that in my mind all the time whenever I go into a school.
Yeah.
I have a problem. I want to tell them how to run the schools, and some of them don't appreciate it, okay?
Are any of your volunteers working in any other school?
Yes, there are some working in other schools, and we have a list of volunteers that are volunteering in different schools, and we have a monthly meeting. I have some of the names right here in front of me, and most of them don't come now to the meetings at the school board. After a while, they might still be tutoring, but they also need to come to the monthly meeting so we can put our heads together and find out, is this working? And are you still at the school that you're supposed to be? This is the list of schools. I have it in front of me. I'm sure nobody sees them, but that's the list, okay?
Oh, that's quite a few.
Yeah, these are
About 20.
Yeah, these are the people that are supposed to put everything together, and they're also volunteering. They've been trained and they're volunteering in their schools. It's about 100 volunteers already. So we got to keep increasing. About 100. This is the people that have the meetings and see if everything's going right. But there are other volunteers that come, that come to the schools and help the children.
And if they have a friend or someone that they can bring with them.
Oh yeah, they can, but you gotta go through an hour training.
Okay.
So it's required by the state of Michigan, because you don't want people coming in pretending they're trying to help the children and doing something else. So you got to have a clearance.
Yeah.
And we all do have to have a clearance, and that's pretty much every year. Can't be no criminals, can't be nothing like that.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah.
that works. So let me see if there's everything. You see all this file I bought with me. There's no way in the world we can talk about all of this. But I do want to express that the children need us.
Yeah.
And those people that are listening, you heard what I said. You can get into the school system to train through the Let's Read program. And this is the group of people that are in charge. We meet every month at the school board meeting on Fisher, Fisher.
Mm-hmm.
And so we meet every month and we talk about the progress and what we can do better. So that's important.
Okay,
So, is there anything you'd like to ask me? I told you I bought all this stuff.
Well, pick something. After you looked at that article, that became super important. So pick something that you were going to say before you read the article.
Yeah, that's why I bought all this stuff. I was going to say that we should be moving forward, but sometimes we're moving backwards. I read all the history of the superintendents that were appointed by the state, and I've got all their information.
Well, we were in emergency management.
Emergency managers, and they
did a
they
lot
were
of us
criminals.
wrong.
Yeah.
They made us retire. It was about 400 of us that they made retire, and the way they did it was they erased our seniority. They cut unemployment in half, so you couldn't go a year, you could only go 6 months. And they erased our sick days. If you had 180 sick days or more through your career, you could get a year extra payment added to your retirement. And I had 235, and they erased them. So I got none of that money. Unemployment was in half. If you wanted to come, they erased your seniority. So if you wanted to come back, you had to start at the bottom level. We were at the top of the level of payment. So if they erase our seniority, now we have to come in as first-year teachers. And we've been teaching for over 30 years. Now we get paid like a first-year teacher. So there was a big group of us that suffered through that. And the ones that retired before we did, a few years before, they got all kinds of pluses added to their retirement. Then I guess they said, well, we can't afford to do it that way. Let's do it the other way. So I was not ready to retire, not at all. And now they try to get us to come back, but we don't trust DPS in coming back. So we worked out some other things in some other areas. We could do other things.
Well, let me just say this. That's why I read Willie Lynn's syndrome. It's no different. They do everything to our people that work for the school system, and their bosses. We are their bosses. They do our children differently than they should. They should hold us up at the highest esteem. You shouldn't have to go through what all these teachers and some of the administrators that are really good friends of mine had to go through. Why are we allowing it?
We have to come together. We can't do that. We're too brown. We can't come together.
And sometimes the leadership of our folks in the unions are with the enemy. And they sell us out. And we don't know it. They meet and they talk about all these things, and we think that they're really working hard for us. And then it all comes out years later, how they sold us out. I was amazed at reading about the managers, where they came in here, no knowledge of the school system, not knowing what really went on. They just threw some people in that would take the money and that would do what they said. All of the emergency managers were crooks. Why would you take a job and you don't know what you're doing? You never had that job before. Only reason you would take it is to destroy the system and to get the money.
I was going to say, it must be big money. And they were changing them like every year, right?
Yeah, they were doing, and they were leaving. As soon as we found out, we were fighting them like crazy. They left. They just kept coming in, and as soon as we found out who they were and how they didn't know what they were doing, and we started fighting them, they left. Then they sent another one. It was just continuous.
Yeah, it was like one a year almost.
Now, if you were a human being and you had children, and you knew that you were being used, as one of the emergency managers told us, he said they told me to come into that system and destroy it. Roy Roberts. They told me to do this, and he came into the system to destroy it. Got rid of certain schools. Did all kinds of stuff, the needy children's school. You remember all that we went through? Closed it down. Let the water run in the schools where the basement was flooded and the brick was falling off the wall. Nasty, dirty things they did to our children. You cannot tell me that all the money they received, and Roberts was a millionaire. Most of them didn't need any money, but they did what the white man told them to, destroy those black children. But we are not going to allow them to keep destroying our children. That's why we're in the schools. That's why we're asking you all to help us teach the kids to read. You know why? Think about slavery. What was the one thing they didn't want us to do? Read. They did not want the slaves to read, so they came up with laws to make sure that the children didn't read, and they would kill them and beat them if they found out they read.
And readers know a whole lot about a lot of things.
That's right.
People that read, you can tell immediately who's a reader and who's not.
And you can look at today, what are they doing, trying to get rid of certain books in our libraries.
Yeah.
I say, you better not even come near me telling me to get rid of a book. My grandfather was a slave, and he left us all these books that have already been denied us. I got them. My kids know all their history. You can't do anything to a person like me, so you can go somewhere and sit down. We need to think that way, and we need to read as much as we can and get all the books that they don't want us to read.
My mother and father, and especially my mother, made sure I was reading. And I was double promoted in kindergarten. They got me out of
I was
there.
double promoted in the 5th grade to the 7th grade.
And then
That's weird.
She made me go to summer school when I was in the 5th grade because she didn't want me to be coming out in January. She said, no, we're going to get you to June now. You're half a semester ahead, so now we're fixing that. And that was no problem. In those 10 weeks or 8 weeks I was moved up a year. But she was making sure her 2 kids read. And we weren't watching videos, and cell phones didn't exist, so we weren't being babysat by cell phones. You had to read.
Listen, you telling the truth. Why was it like that then? My children got angry at Barton School because I kept making them read, and we had school after school. When they got home, my husband and I were the teachers, okay? So I asked them about their reading, and we had a lot of beautiful books for them, and they weren't interested. And I said, well, what are you interested in? Guess what they were interested in? Comic books. And guess what? I said, comic books.
Yeah,
I started buying all the comic books I could buy. And they were excellent readers. So whatever you have to do to get your children to the point they should be, do it. I'm saying comic books. And then I tried it. Comic books got a lot of hard words.
And you have to read to know what's going on.
My children could read them.
Comic books, yes.
And they still reading them. And one collects comic books. My oldest son, Carl, he collects comic books. He's about to retire from his job. And
well, he could get big money for
he's got a lot of big money. He collected them from 12 years old when I allowed them to read comic books. So think about it, people that's listening. Think about it, parents. Listen to your children. You might learn something, because I did.
Yeah, and they got a lot of kids' books, but they want to do video and they want to play games on the computer. And
they got to read.
Yeah.
And if it's a comic book, let them read them. Buy them for them.
Yeah.
See, it's a new day, folks. New parents. We can win if we all stick together and we let our children know that they are somebody. Our children are brilliant. People, when I say that and I speak out all over the country and I say our people are brilliant, white folks sit in the audience look at me like, what's she talking about? And then I tell them about some of our children that are 12 years old that are in college. It's true.
Talk about readers. Dr. Telford is an excellent reader and writer.
Yes.
He has been working through the school system for many years and done media also for many years. And he has 8 books out, and you can go to Amazon.com and order all or some of his great books, or you can call him at 313-460-8272. 313-462-8272. He just recently finished a book, and Apple Bonds is the end of the title of the books. I'm going to have to memorize the entire title, and I don't have a copy to share with you today. And we are missing Dr. Telford today. He had a difficulty this morning, and he had to address it. And he will be just fine. We know God is going to keep him with us. And he has books that he'd like to share with you. And call this number, 313-460-8272. And let him know which books you want him to talk about. And he'll tell you about each one, especially the latest one. Well written, lots of information that you can use to talk about, laugh about, be serious about. And he's trying to get me to do this book that I've been talking about forever, Dating After 50. It's a lot of stories that Helen Moore might have a story dating after 50.
51 years, yeah.
And it's going to be some humor injected and some things that maybe you can think about when you date somebody after 50. So email him as well at where is it? Okay. Dr. John Telford, EDD at AOL.com. Okay, Miss Moore.
Yes, I have something for you. August 2010, Centers of Excellence, Back to School Edition for Detroit Public Schools. What's new in DPS? Now listen to this, 2010. Expanded time for reading and mathematics under Common Core curriculum. Instructional time in reading and math will be expanded to 120 minutes daily in every kindergarten through 8th grade class for most students. That will mean a dramatic increase to exposure to these two core subjects. Pre-algebra for 7th graders. All students will receive new textbooks and supplemental materials. A tutor for every pre-kindergarten through the Volunteer Reading Corps. Additional language courses available. Advanced placement courses available for every high school. More opportunities for student apprenticeship, internship, shadowing, and mentorship. Millions of dollars in school building improvement. New safety and security systems in every school. Extended day summer school programs for parent university, etc. Now, August 2010, who was superintendents back then? Was it the people that came in to take over the school system? No, it was not. And you all need to get this copy so you can see what we were doing back then.
And hold it up.
Wasn't it?
You hold it up. They can see it from that side.
All right, I'm going to hold it up right here.
Now you got to turn it this way.
Okay.
Your camera. Okay.
And this was promised back then. But did we get all of that? Were we taken over at that time? I'm giving you all homework. What did they fool us into thinking?
They would promise you everything.
Everything.
And not deliver. I've had Meaty stand 2 inches from my face with his wife and promised me that they would continue Urban Teen. You have my word. It did not happen.
And I'm gonna. I guess I can find. Okay, I found a picture. This is who was in charge, telling us all that good stuff, and came here to destroy the system.
I think it's time for us to check out.
Yes.
Yeah, you've been watching the Dr. John Telford Show live on Wjzz Cool TV with Helen Moore here today, and he also has a radio show on Saturday mornings. So thank you for watching Wjzz Cool TV, Dr. John Telford. You can talk if you like.
Thank you very much for having me today.